Looks like pure light.
Yeah, it is.
Let me just see, make sure it's going to go. I had a little bit of a problem. Facebook. Okay, we're good. Yeah. So, yeah, we'll roll the show out in 2 or 3 minutes and get to know each other in front of everybody. We do everything spontaneously, intuitively, creatively, imaginatively, and sometimes courageously on this show. Just try to, you know, we're live, by the way. Sorry. But this is the normal routine. I just want to go in and pull it up on my phone so we can then, I can track the comments or any questions people might have. And yeah, and then share it out a little bit. It's on my.
If it was going to be recorded.
Yeah, and it'll be on YouTube. It's on. We're live on Zoom, live on Facebook, and then within the next 24 to 48 hours, it'll be up on YouTube as well. Okay. So you're welcome to do with it whatever you want. You know, a lot of people download it and then upload it, or sometimes I'll just share the original YouTube to their own playlist. Let's see here. Whew, it's a little bit warm. Usually means something's going on. Some energy's about to present itself.
Oh yeah.
Let's see. Let's see here. All right. I'll just share it into the Soulogy network. And got 29 people in the house. They're filling up pretty fast. By the time we get started, probably about 50 in here.
Awesome.
Okay. Let me just give a shout out to some of the groups that we interact with. Everybody's doing a great job out there, continuing to build the soul tribes and the network, Human Hybrid Soul Network, the one that we don't read about in the mainstream media or even in the alt news. But we're getting it done. There's a lot of powerful things happening right now. So I'm excited to be talking to our guest. I'm going to introduce her in just a second when I read her bio. If I can get the electronics to cooperate with us. Let's see. Let me give a shout out to Rebecca Williams, the only admin at Soulogy. So many times over the last 8 years, we've had teams of admins, and she's been able to do it by herself, and it's absolutely incredible. We couldn't do what we do every day without her. So I just want to say hello and thank you. Shout out to Spiritual Healers, 1111 Movement, Jessica Woods, The Sun Will Rise in the West, Marcel, Twin Flame Healing Network, 5D High Vibe Tribe, which is Sean Christopher, Lightworkers Unification, Infused Lights, Gregory Jones, Galactic Federation of Light, Ground Crew United, New Earth Ascending Soul, 13 Dimensions of Consciousness. The event is happening. Jim McCarty and that bunch over there. Sum of One, Raquel Toombs, Return of the Soul, my sister Zavetta Da Vinci, 5D Soul Tribe, Marco Lepore, Guardians of Oneness, Spiritual Wonderland, and Intuit, and who's the other one? Angels of Gaia. Beautiful name. Hello, everybody. It's good to see you. A lot of people in the house, 29 people. Thank you for your continued love, support, and contributions. It's good to see you all. And if these shows resonate with you, please share, because that's the only way we can stay above the algorithms on Facebook. And we're doing a pretty good job of it. I just want to remind everybody that here at Soulogy.One, we're all part of this. We're always adding frequencies to an ever-expanding vibration in our effort to mirror the universe and mirror the innerverse that we're all doing here. Let me go into the bio with our beautiful guest. Looking forward to this next hour. SoulSpeaks 5D welcomes Yvonne M. Perry. She's a celestial shaman who has had multiple walk-in experiences. This is going to be interesting. Yvonne Perry helps people understand and integrate multidimensional soul aspects. She's a practitioner of light codes, offering one-on-one coaching to help people learn to manage energy, access and anchor vibrations of higher realms, and transmit their soul's unique frequency. Her monthly online group, her monthly online group, Light Language Activation Sessions, assist people to remember light language as a tool to create positive change in their lives and in the world. She is the author of several books, including Walk-ins Among Us, Open Your personal portal to cosmic awareness and light language emerging, activating ascension codes and integrating body, soul, and spirit. You can find her at weareone, the number one in spirit.com. It's on the announcement and it's on the text of this live. And we are going to pull up her website toward the end of the show, as we always do in the last 10 minutes or so, to allow her to further explain the things she does and offers and any events she might have coming up and that type of thing. So welcome to the show. Thank you for honoring us with your presence and sharing space with us today. It's a pleasure to have you here. Welcome to Soul Speaks 5D.
Thank you, Todd. It's a privilege to be here. Thank you for asking me to be your guest tonight.
Absolutely. Reading your bio is like the same energy that I'm partnered up with over here with Morgan. I'm her number one client, by the way. Her number one pet project, I guess you could say. But you know, it's interesting because through my relationship with her, I've learned over the last 4 years, almost 4 years, how many divine feminine around this world have been doing this work for so long, in solitude in many cases, and anonymity, without getting any notoriety, many times without getting paid, but listening to the higher calling, the higher realms, the higher selves, and just going out there and doing the work, whether it be grid work or energy practitioner or whatever it may be. So just a shout out to all the divine feminine out there who are stepping up now and getting past this energy of suppression that's been in our DNA, and that includes the men as well. Soulogy is the voice of the Mother Goddess, or the voices of the Mother Goddess that has been suppressed in all of us. So it's always a pleasure to sit down with somebody new, and I love to ask this question. Everybody knows. Did you have a wake-up experience, or did you have the normal routine where you kind of always had it, then you went into the matrix, got a job, got married, went to sleep, and then came up for air? Which was it for you?
I don't think I was ever asleep. I can remember being, even as a child, aware that I had guides or beings around me. And I didn't really do the matrix thing because I have been a practitioner, not knowing it and not, of course, not being paid, but as an intercessor in the church.
Oh, yeah.
I've been doing light language since 1994. So
Whoa.
I've been doing this work for a long time, but it's just within the last few years that I've really started using that in a way to bless more people coming forward. It took me 3 times to write the book, Walk-ins Among Us, because I was just not ready to come out from my little private place where all this was happening for me and start sharing that with the world. It was a big step to come in, walk out of the walk-in closet.
Walk out of the walk-in closet. I love that. Oh my God. I wish I'd have thought of that one. That's a great meme right there. Yeah, I want to talk about this some, if you don't mind, in this conversation. Walk-ins have really, really, that phrase or that label, I hate to use the word label, has really come to the surface over the last year and a half, and with varying connotations.
Right.
I think we're all kind of saying the same thing, but with a multiplicity, which I think is really, really interesting. So I'm really, really intrigued by it and interested in hearing what you have to say about it. I totally get what you're saying. I have a little curiosity here too, because somebody the other day had come on the show, and I can't remember, 1,200 shows and 57 years on this linear timeline. I'm not too good with the short-term memory, but they were talking about how in their, and it was just a passing comment, and I didn't get to have them elaborate on it, how in their Western religious upbringing that they actually utilize light language in their congregation. Is that something similar to what you are referring to, since you've been doing this since '94?
Well, it was one of those gifts that the churches that I attended really did not honor. I was in the Baptist church, and that's not one that honors the gifts, especially the independent fundamentalist churches that I was in. Very repressive, very restrictive. So no, I would not have used it in that setting. But sometime around, I guess, the mid-90s was when I started to really use the gift of prayer to pray for people. I just had this burden to pray for the world. If somebody was sick, I wanted them to get better. um, so beginning to use that privately, I began to ask for the gifts of the Spirit. It wasn't something that we were being taught at church. In fact, they told us that the age of dispensation was over,
Yeah.
and that the gifts didn't exist anymore. And I'm like, well, I don't know about that.
Yeah, right.
I've seen differently. I've seen, I've seen the other gifts of the Spirit being mentioned, the gifts of prophecy and the gifts of healing and the gifts of compassion and understanding. I saw a lot of those things manifesting in my life, and I saw that there were more on the list. And I just, kind of said, hey, God, sign me up. I want all of them. And the next thing I knew, I was in my bedroom one night, and I was really asking for a way to further my ability to bless people through my prayers. And I heard, I was saying, well, can I use the gift of tongues to do that? And I thought that the gift of tongues was going to be me speaking French without having to learn it, or Spanish without having to go through all the lessons. That'd be a handy tool to have, right? Like I said, my church didn't have any teachings on this, so I just kind of made up what I thought it was going to be all about. So when I was asking for this enhanced ability to bless people through prayer, I asked also for the gift of tongues. And I heard very clearly, Todd, just do it.
Wow.
I'm like, it can't be that easy.
Wow.
That simple. But I did. I said, okay, I'm just going to open my mouth and let whatever comes out, come out. And, now I'm in the church, so we're real missionary oriented to save the world, through the doctrine. So I said, Puerto Rico, Mexico Condego. That was my words that came out. I thought, oh my God, I'm going to be a missionary to Puerto Rico.
Either that or I'm learning Spanish.
I'm learning Spanish or something. And so I thought, bingo, we're on to something here. And so I just kept on going, and there were too many. It began to flood forth after that. So it was just gushing forth and not even able to record. This was back before cassette tapes. I mean, we're still using cassette tapes. So I didn't go grab a recorder for it, but I did it for the rest of that night. I woke up the next morning. It was still going. It's still going. Yeah. And then we moved from the place where that actually activated, and we moved to Indiana. So I did a little time in Indiana, and I got in with a group of intercessors there at the Methodist Church of all places, a Spirit-filled Methodist church.
Well, I got to tell you, I was raised Catholic till I was about, I guess, 9. And then I moved to Dallas-Fort Worth at 6th grade. And so everything was Baptist there. So we started going, and my stepmother was Baptist. So we started going to the Baptist churches. And I get what you're saying about the constrictions that might not be accommodating to what you're talking about. But also, I think it's funny that you say this about the Methodist thing, because at least in that area, anytime the word Methodist was brought up, it was like they were just like heathen to the Baptists.
Yeah. Well, I was a seeker, so I had to say with the Catholic Church, and I had, there was an inner city church that was non-denominational. I was going to Methodist church. I was assisting a pastor in another Methodist church. I was the administrator for the Sunday school curriculum at the local bookstore. So I had my foot or finger in every church in the city for a little while there. So I was just kind of testing the waters and going, oh, what do you believe? Oh, what's this like? What's this feel like? So that was my searching and trying to find a place that this new gift could be utilized. And this particular church that my membership was in, how important that is. My membership was in the Methodist church at the time. And they had a weird group on Tuesday night. That's what people were calling them, the weird group.
The weird group.
Yeah, they were kind of afraid of us because we would get together and there was light language. There was laughter, the Holy Spirit laughter. There was sometimes tears and groaning and birthing. There was people that were being delivered of addictions. There were people that were being healed. So there was some stuff going on that was, I felt positive, but people looking from the outside in, it always looks weirder than if you're in the pot, you know, the one stirring it might say, oh, that's strange, but the one in the pot really doesn't know that it's strange.
Yeah. I always look at it as crabs in a bucket. You know, it's the herd mentality.
Yeah.
So the weirdos, that's where I would have gone.
Oh, it was fun. It was so much fun. I loved it.
To thine own self be true. That rings true with the first thing you said about the light language. You know, most people, I would think, are like me. You know, I mean, I never really heard light language until we started doing these shows. That's not true. The first time I heard it was from my beloved, and I've heard it many, many times in many different dialects. And but I would have tend to then and even now to associate it with a galactic kind of frequency, which is, you know, growing up in the South like you, being exposed to, I've been to Methodist, Baptist, Catholic, but the South is deep. South, the religious, the spirituality thing is kind of deep and interesting, you know, kind of like the blues. You know, the blues comes from the South, and it's, you know, it's kind of like there's no in between. But it's interesting. So, what's your? I mean, how did that evolve for you? I mean, A, do you feel like there's a galactic frequency, and B, when did you come to that realization, and did you have any trouble assimilating that?
Well, what I've come to learn is that angels in the Bible are more than likely ET beings.
Yeah.
That came in somehow or another. I mean, you've got Elisha in a chariot of fire. What is that other than a spaceship, UFO? So looking back on that, the Neberu, the Anunnaki, the giants, all of these to me indicate that there was activity from ETs or off planets on the planet all throughout history. So when this gift first began, I didn't have any connotation about that. We didn't believe in that. That was just not even on my radar.
Yeah.
It wasn't until probably sometime around 2013 when I had the walk-in. The big walk-in was in 99. I had like another upgrade or a big bump in consciousness due to a head injury in 2013, and the light language just exploded, and I was hearing the beings of light. It was almost like they were monitoring me. They were giving one another like, check this, check that. It was almost like they were pushing buttons, turning knobs or something to see how I was assimilating being bumped into this body. And they had a real heavy watch on me, and I'm like, hello, I can hear you.
I'm not the big elephant in the room. Whoa, this is really, really interesting for a lot of reasons, because I can relate. Even though I wasn't in you know, organized religion anymore, but I never really had. You know, I would see things on Facebook. I woke up in summer of 2011. And I was on the streets a couple of years, so I really wasn't interacting online. But once I did a couple of years later, and I got a computer and started posting, I saw some galactic stuff, and it never resonated. It actually never resonated until I met a galactic named Morgan Lee.
There you go.
Then I started to get that perspective, and it even took a couple of years. You know, there's a little bit of, you know. So for you, it didn't really happen till that second walk-in episode. Let's kind of shift gears a little bit. 99, you said the big walk-in happened. How would you describe that experience? And the reason I'm asking these questions is because you're obviously a forerunner. People call it way showers. I mean, I'm not big on labels, but there's a lot of people waking up to the same type of occurrences and experiences that you experienced in 99 and 2013 and so on. And even though it's out there a little bit more, it's still not out there. And you know, and I know how much we doubted ourselves, questioned our sanity. So I have a particular affinity for your story and your frequency because I grew up in the South and I understand it. And to hear a woman from the South with your dialect telling me these things is really kind of a culture shock. I got to tell you that. So in 99, this is pre-2012, and you've got some light language going on, and you're in the church and stuff. What happened? What was this walk-in experience like?
Well, all of my adult life, I had heard that I would not be here when the turn of the century occurred. I didn't know what that meant. Sure enough, December the 3rd, 1999 was when I walked out. That particular part of my soul walked out, and another transfer or a replacement soul came in. And so, true to what I had suspected all along, I wasn't here. That I wasn't here. So we were going through a lot of things. We had moved. I think we had lived in 4 different houses in 3 different states in less than 5 years. So I was under a lot of emotional duress.
Yeah.
And was receiving a lot of, I was doing a lot of prayer, a lot of light language. So you know that if you do that, if you do the light language, you're going to keep raising your vibration and you're going to keep expanding in your consciousness. And if your body's not quite ready to handle those frequencies that are coming in, it can make you, it can hurt the body, it can hurt the mind, the emotions. And I had all of that going on. And the last move, my kids were teenagers and my daughter got sick and was hospitalized. My son was graduating high school and my marriage was falling apart. So I had a little bit of stress.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit of stress. And I got to the point where I really didn't want to be here and had this death urge going. Yeah. And just really felt like I'm done. I'm just so done. And it was one night that I passed out. I was having a discussion with my ex-husband and I just passed out on the floor. And when I did, I couldn't move. It was like I was paralyzed or pinned to the floor. I could hear what was going around me. I could not speak. I couldn't open my eyes. And all I could hear was, "You'll understand later. Try to relax and allow. You'll understand later." Well, later didn't come for 3 more years. I still didn't know what had happened. I quit organized religion. I left that marriage. I forgot that I had a daughter. I walked out the next morning. I left that marriage the next morning. Wow. 22-year marriage, something that, you just don't do. The keyboard.
This was 99?
99. I had played church keyboard. I was the church pianist, organist, worship leader, youth choir leader, everything.
You were the church.
I was the church, all in one bundle. And I quit playing keyboard. Everything that I was interested in seemed to just go away. I took a job for the first time, went out, worked for a few years, and found that really wasn't for me either, that I needed to be doing what I was called to do, and that was praying for people.
Yeah. Wow, that's a powerful thing. Now, in terms of, well, really, I guess it's funny. You said it took 3 years. Mm-hmm. It's funny and not so funny that the way they speak to us, they act like it's going to be tomorrow. We get these things come in, or at least in the past, you get these things come in. Okay, everything's going to shift. It takes so long. How was that 3 years for you? Was that
if you think about it, in 99, we really didn't have a whole lot of Google on walk-ins. There was one website that I could find that had anything with the term walk-in, and I didn't even know to look for walk-in. All that time, I was doing some ghostwriting for people. That's what I transitioned out of corporate when I figured out, whoa, that's not for me. That is not my energy. That's not my tribe. So I started doing some ghostwriting, editing at home. And I met a woman that wanted to write a book about walk-ins. I'm like, what's a walk-in? So I met with her. She told me her story. And I think my chin dropped. And, I was like, oh my God. I think that's what happened to me. There was just so many similarities in what she was sharing and what I had experienced. And finally, I had some point of reference to start putting some terminology with my experience. Yeah. But still, it just seems so bizarre. I mean, I'm still coming out of Christianity, so I'm not even sure I believe in reincarnation. Yeah. So here we are talking about reincarnating in the same body. Yeah. Well, no, that's far-fetched. So it probably took me another 6 months to a year to accept the fact that that's what happened.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, because you made a comment a minute ago. When you first mentioned walk-ins, you said that part of my soul left. Mm-hmm. And then you came back and said, well, basically, there was a walk-in. Mm-hmm. Do you see that we're here? And I don't mean to get like deeply esoteric or anything. I really try to keep things in layman's terms. But did it leave? Are we a composite of all of these aspects, and one is steering the wheel, has a steering wheel, and other times a higher aspect comes in or whatever. I guess maybe another way to say it to you is, what is your understanding, your perspective? What is a walk-in?
To me, there's several different ways that we can look at walk-ins. It's a vital part of our ascension. It's allowing the reincarnation or the born again process to happen within one lifetime. We are upgrading ourselves. Like, the purpose of coming here is to get the soul from here, point A to point B. Well, if you reached point B, that's all you had on your contract. Now what? People used to die at 30 and 40 years old. Rarely did they live to 50. Now we're living to be 90 and 100. What are we going to do with the rest of the time? We've accomplished what we had on our star map to do. So it's like, okay, I'm just going to go back to where I came from, wherever that is, do my little review, see what's next, and come back.
Right.
Sometimes when that's happening, because it's like you said, we're multifaceted, we're multidimensional, there are soul aspects, kind of like a hologram, where this is just like this, but it can be broken apart and retain itself. That part of me came back in and took the wheel. I like the way you said it, took the driver's wheel, so that a different part of me was driving, because at that point, I was so tired. Physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, I was drained. And I think I would have probably just taken myself out, taken the body out, had I not had that experience where almost like a tender, loving, caring, higher aspect presence came in to just say, whoa, 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 wait a minute. Let me carry this little burden for you for a little while, and then you can come back later. And that's what happened in 2013.
Okay. So you go through this, you traverse those 14 years or so. What happened in 2013?
That's when I had the head injury. I had a head injury because I knew that I was about to have that time to leave. I knew it was coming up. I felt some resistance from the soul that had come in as a placeholder, not wanting to leave, very comfortable here, liked Earth life. And it was our contract or our agreement that I would be back. So I think that the head injury actually dislodged that aspect and sent her back and let me come back in. I know it sounds weird.
No, I don't think that's weird at all. In fact, a lot of times on the show, I get like multi-dimensional imagery and aspects presented to me, and different epiphanies and stuff like that. So I had, I woke up summer of 2011, very much the same frequency that you're talking about. And I hadn't even thought about this. So it would have been in the months leading up to that, 4 or 5 months leading up to that. I was in the same place you were, which was, I don't think I want to be here anymore. I've pretty much had it. I'm done. Stick a fork in me. I'm done. And but then I got into a situation, and I got jumped, and I sustained a head injury, and actually had what they call post-concussion syndrome. So for about 3 or 4 months, I was in this state of in and out. Like, I would describe it as, when you wake up in the morning and you're kind of like, in awake state and back in the dream. It was like that. Yep. It was a very strange thing. And something happened at that point. Something else came in, and it felt like it was the old me. Mm-hmm. So I can get what you're saying. Mm-hmm. Now, what happened from there? Did you at that point in 2013, was there the angelic, the galactic part of it coming through at that point?
Mm-hmm. That's when I was hearing them, check this, check that, check the communication device, check the module, da-da-da-da. Okay, we're online now, da-da-da-da. I'm like, what is going on? Who are you? What are you? And I realized that these were off planets, and that we were hooked up somehow with this ringing in my ear. This is something that does, it's a line in somehow. I've had that all of my life. I've had that ringing in the ear, but it changed after the head injury. In fact, I was so sensitive to sound, I could hardly be around people or be in public. I also had some vision with, couldn't, like you said, with the post-concussion. I didn't see well. I couldn't be on computer, glares, sunlight, anything. I was in the bed dictating light language among us onto a little voice recorder that I later translated.
Wow. Now, and in terms of, you know, I don't know if there's anything you want to fill it in. This is really intriguing, especially because you come from the South. I mean, you remind me of so many friends and aunts and such, you know what I mean? It's and to hear this coming out of you, because mostly what I've heard is, you know what I've heard, you know, but in terms of what is spirituality, or what is the end all, but during 2013 up to this point, what faces of the universe do you identify with or that speak with you, or is it just one voice of the universe, one voice of God?
Prior to 2013?
Well, prior and since 2013.
Okay. I am still at this point not sure, because I can find a little nugget over here in Christianity that kind of resonates. Still love the Holy Spirit and call upon the Holy Spirit, and whoosh, I can feel it. Still meditation puts me in touch with some higher power, higher self. Knowing that I have a resonance with Pleiadian. That was something that even before my walk-in, I was starting to explore. I'm trying to think, Amora Kuan Yin, I think. The Pleiadian workbook was one that I did probably in 2005, I guess it was. Because I had found out that I had a walk-in, and that just kind of shattered all of my religion. And so that opened me up, and I realized God wasn't going to kill me if I started exploring some other options.
And the devil wasn't going to slide into bed with you.
Lightning bolts. I wasn't going to be possessed of the devil, and I wasn't going to lose my salvation if I explored a little bit. So that's when I began with Pleiadian, and I worked with somebody in 2014, you know, right when something like that happened. I had somebody who came into my life who knew and understood the walk-in experience, who was a galactic shaman. She lived with me for 3 weeks, and I was in intensive night and day training with her. Powerful woman. And she brought in the Arcturian aspect of my soul. Wow.
Yeah, I can identify with that too, because when Morgan came over for the first time, I went through 5 weeks of that. I called it boot camp.
Yes.
You know what you call it?
Soul boot camp. Shaman boot camp or something.
Yeah. So by then you were accepting of and open to, obviously, Pleiadian, Arcturian, galactic star family type of thing. Do you have a certain star family or families that you particularly identify with or feel more resonant with?
I think one that comes through a lot for me is the bird tribe, which I guess is an angelic tribe, and the blue avian.
Avians, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Avians, yeah, that's a big one for me. Yeah, that even came in. I'll often say that the first one was Morgan, but the blue avian thing came in for me, and I never made any sense of it. I just saw a picture. I'm like, oh, that looks familiar, and I Googled it and all that stuff. But yeah, that seems to be a really prominent, powerful, kind of subtle star family frequency for some reason, to me at least, and I've seen other people say the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So can I ask you now, do you do your light language publicly? Do you
oh, yes, absolutely.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Would you be open to sharing anything with us now or connecting?
I would love to. Absolutely. Yeah. How long would you like?
Is there are you like Google? Can I Google it? No, I'm kidding. No, whatever resonates with you. I very much believe in the spontaneous. I do feel certain alignment.
Okay.
I'm sweating like a dog from the inside out. I don't know what's happening with that. But yeah, so yeah, whatever you feel.
Okay. All right. I may bring in a little bit of drum. Is that okay, djembe?
Do whatever you want to do.
Okay.
Do whatever you want to do. That's a beautiful drum, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Tora solo horama ashvaki tokara ashkave olanda ta'ala atosh kravaluhiana. Honda l'avremo con le scura ashka no taka ashka lete olava. Ashka no la veshni kwa ate ve eshpena ashkwa leve aske. Tora maloku. ramahi. Ramo lo chinamo qua yero la ededon. Onda da briha pushka ema araka ashka ni olave. Molomo kaya naka. Malamoloma de okohaye. Star Nations la kana kokamana. This transmission feels like it's for those who are experienced at walk-in. They don't happen all of a sudden every time. Sometimes it's over a course of months or even years as a walk-in is beginning to transfer. So it feels like this is some supportive energy for those who are going through a soul transition or a big shift, upgrades right now, to help the body come into alignment and resonance with these higher vibrational beings. Yellow Kurama Kiara Suka Ave Oshkananaye. Oh, Emale Onda Yekua. Bona Yena Yena Yana. Light body grid. Full template. Communication device. Allowing expanded consciousness to move into the body, touching every cell in the body, upgrading to the template for the divine human, for the hybrid human. The blue diamond ray being broadcast and transmitted. Grounding that into the Earth's grids, Gaia grids, Earth stars.
Wow. I got to say, that's thank you so much for that. Wow. That was probably the most diverse light language activation I've ever seen, because it involved the galactic, the organic, indigenous, rhythmic, melodic. That's obviously the result of a tremendous amount of consistent, constant communion, I would think.
Well, I guess 20 something years, doing it for 20 something years, you pick up different dialects, and working with clients, it feels like many times the galactics, actually, I kind of step aside and they come through and they speak to them at a soul level or speak to their guides. So I'm just kind of holding space and saying, okay, bring it through. And when you're on a call like this, diversity is the key, because so many different people are from different star groups, different star nations. They're at a different frequency level. So we access as many bands and dialects as we can to minister to the most people possible.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I get that. Yeah. I want to ask you, if with your experience, with the wealth of your experience, because it is diverse. If somebody were waking up today, whether they asked or not, what advice would you give them in terms of what is ascension, what is a walk-in, or the potential of, or anything else that you might say to them from this point forward as they move forward, obviously being more open. And you know how it is when you wake up, there's just as much shock as there is, blessings, basically. But what would you tell people?
Learn to trust your own heart, trust your own intuition and your own guidance. There's a lot of stuff out there. I guess I say that because I'm coming from a religious background that did not allow me to think for myself, where doctrine was spoon-fed and shoved down my throat. I didn't have a chance to really digest it or say, I like that or I don't like that. It's, in other words, in order to be accepted, you had to walk this straight and narrow line and not deviate from that, especially being a leader in the church. That walk-in experience for me, this ascension process, is really getting back to your truth, your inner truth, not what somebody else has told you, not what you believed all your life. It could shift, it could change as more information comes in if you'll listen to your guidance. And listening to your guidance may mean that you're being directed to a show like this, or that you're directed to a book or a YouTube or some conversation or to a place where you are going to receive what you need. So if you're always in tune with following your heart and being authentic to yourself, you're not going to go wrong. A lot of times I was afraid to trust that, but now it's my cornerstone.
What do you think if you have any perspective at all on it, I'm not being presumptuous, but what do you think the role of the energetic divine feminine is in this transition?
The divine feminine, I think, is a counter aspect of the deity, the God, whatever. It's been pushed aside and relegated to the back seat. Bringing her forward is to help balance what we've had with a lot of male aggression, with a lot of patriarchal religion, politics, and what have you. This divine feminine is the softer side, the more receptive side, the community, the we're in this together, oneness, love. It's moving away from this warmongering, we're going to have peace, dadgummit, it's almost like,
we're going to go to war for peace.
It's more like be the peace. The divine feminine, when we hold that frequency and that vibration, we are the peace and we radiate that out, and it changes situations, it changes behaviors, all because you're carrying a frequency of that divine feminine that doesn't want to war, that is peace, that is nurturing, that is comforting, that does care. So we need that balance. If anything, we kind of need to go more on that side of the pendulum at this time, just to kind of balance the scales and bring us back into alignment.
Yeah.
It's not a popular thing.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, though. It makes a lot of sense if you take the personal out of it and, the gender out of it, even, I guess, and look at it strictly as energy, even if it doesn't mean that particular side of the pendulum will be in force forever. It only makes sense that it has to swing that way for a while in all of us. And I love what you said too about, really, to me, what you said is there is no doing, it's just being it. Don't talk about it. You can go do all you want, take the actions you want, but really you can actually just hold this space and hold that frequency, connect and align with that frequency of the divine feminine, of the mother goddess, whatever you want to call it. And that in itself will take care of everything.
It changes things for sure.
Did you have I just got to ask this, did you have were you ejected from Western religion?
4 times. I asked too many questions.
Oh, yeah.
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 I got ejected one time because I played at a home show, and I played secular music, and I got thrown out of that church. My husband was, and I was a Sunday school teacher or a preschool teacher for the children. I was teaching in the Christian school there. I got ousted. My kids got ousted out of the school. The other time I went back to the same church because, I just didn't know what else to do. I was still afraid of God. So we went back. They had changed pastors, so I thought things would be different. I'd already gotten kicked out for asking too many questions with the first one. It happened again with the second one. Then the last one was a vineyard church, which I thought was kind of ironic because here they are charismatic and are, they use the gifts of the Spirit somewhat. And boy, I got married without asking their permission. Oh my God, I didn't know I had to.
It amazes me in my travel. It amazes me in my travels from October 2016 till I got here, October 2018. Even though as much as I'd been exposed, and I had worked in probably 30 plus states, and I'd been around a little bit, to see some of and I had actually read a lot about different religious leaders and different religions, just for my own, my own purposes of trying to understand things. Not even the suppression of the feminine in some of these Western religious organizations. The absolute repression's not even the right word. Suppression's not even the right word. It's almost like
non-existent.
Non-existent. Yeah. When I went to Salt Lake City and then I found out about the whole Mormon thing, I was like, oh my God, this is like they got a temple, and I'm not making fun of anybody. I'm just making a point that the pendulum has to swing to the divine feminine side because it's so far over and removed from her, but it's just like, wow, so it's really an eye-opener for me to be talking to you, having grown up in that culture in the South. And on one hand, I can almost smell the fried chicken, mashed potatoes and green beans in your house. But on the other hand, it's very refreshing, and I know it must have taken a lot of guts in the South to be a woman and to take the stand you have. I'm sure you've got a lot of scar tissue that's been healed and transformed. But big props.
You learn that who you can talk to and who you can't, and family's one that you usually just can't.
In the South, that's very true.
They're still in the religion. Just to give you an example, we were at Daytona Beach with the family a month ago. Somebody had either done a ceremony where maybe they were scattering ashes or whatever, but it felt to me like a divine feminine. There was fruit and flowers arranged on the beach, and to me, I'm going, oh yes, somebody did a divine mother puja. That's awesome. Oh my goodness, it did not go well with my family. They came back just talking about how that was, and my sister-in-law said something about, I said something about being a divine mother or divine feminine, possibly some type of a ceremony to honor that. She goes, oh, there is no divine mother, divine feminine. There's only one God. And I'm like, whoa, landmine, get out of here. So that was the end of that conversation. I'm like, you're not going there, Vaughn. This is, no, we're not making enemies.
Yeah.
I have nothing to prove, and she is entitled to believe how she wants to believe. If that works for her, hey, I was there once too. So
yeah, that's right. what's that old biblical Christian saying? Where it's what is it? It's actually I think in the Bible where woe is me or not woe is me, but in other words, oh, pretty much what you said. It could be me. In other words, could be me. Compassion's been a big energy that seems to be coming to the surface the last few weeks with everything going on, and I think that's a you know, that's a good sign. What are your views on that? How do you deal with situations like that without feeling separate from that person?
As far as the energies of the
This is
moon or the
somebody that's very religious that is diametrically opposed to you. I mean, I think in these light worker circles, we can take on some of the same characteristics that these organized religious circles have.
Yeah.
I mean, so I think it's an expanded template or an expanded consciousness for us to be able to say, okay, you're entitled to the way you want to think, but there's a part of us that says, but I know better than you. You know what I mean? How do you handle that? How do we stay in compassion?
Well, that's just it. You know, with my sister-in-law, it was to just walk away, to love her as she is, not try to change her. She'll find her path, whatever it is that she's supposed to find, whatever she's here to do, whatever her soul needs here, she'll get that, whether it's through her doctrine or my philosophy, doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
So in that situation, it's about me coming into my center, loving myself, not feeling like I have anything to prove, not feeling like I have to change her or change the world. I'm not here to save the world.
Yeah.
I'm here to be the peace. And so in that situation, I could have, we're going to have peace here. But instead, it's like, okay, I choose to love you unconditionally and not judge you. I've been there. I believed that once myself. So yeah, to me, it's just walk. It's like Jesus said, turn the other cheek. And that doesn't mean that you're going to be abusive. It just means that you're going to, sometimes you just turn and walk away.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean you're going to be a doormat either.
No.
It doesn't. Let me go back over here. I want to take people to your website and then ask you to give us an idea. First of all, are you open to receiving inquiries about one-on-one sessions online?
Sure.
Okay. And so can you tell us, I mean, this is your website. We are one in spirit. Very well done, by the way.
Well, thank you.
Check out a lot of them. What services do you offer? What events do you have coming up? And you can direct me. I can.
Okay. The services tab there has the coaching services. I do them in person here at home. I do them over the phone or Skype or Zoom or Facebook Messenger, however anybody wants to connect. And I also do what's called a mini activation, where I record either 15 minutes or 30 minutes of what you sampled tonight. And it's particularly for that person. So they sign up to get, it's not really a reading because it's not fortune telling. It's not something coming through necessarily that says, oh, you're going to marry so-and-so and have 3 kids. It's not that. It's more like, okay, spirit knows right now that you're facing this, there's a situation with family, and we're going to do an activation to help you get through that. And so I'll start drumming and doing the light language to give them tools, codes, if you will, that will help to help them, bring them through that situation. So all of that is on there.
Wow.
And that's the blog on the main page there. That's the blog.
Yeah. Yeah, and you had some nice testimonials underneath the services. Do you have any events coming up?
Yes, click on events. We have the online class. That's July 25th, right there. You see
that. Light language workshop online.
We activate people to actually speak, sing, drum, play, write, sign, gesture, the light language in all of its facets. And we do it online through Zoom, just like we are tonight.
Very cool. Yeah.
And then I have an in-person event in Paducah, Kentucky on July 27th, which I will do a 4-hour activation. And there's personal ministry with that one, where we'll actually utilize, once we've activated the light language, we will turn around and then utilize that with one another. Actually practice, try it on.
I know a couple of people in Paducah, Kentucky.
Awesome. Yay. Yeah, that's going to be at Debbie's mindful, I think it's called Sullivan's Mindful Retreat or something. Debbie's.
Oh, I see it here. Light language activation workshop, June 27th.
Yeah.
Mindful living.
There it is.
Very nice and very reasonable too, if I might add. Absolutely, yeah, yeah. So yeah, this has been been a very.
There's a couple spaces left in the Galactic Shaman Workshop, which is August 30th through September the 2nd, 1st, and that's here at my home. Okay. I can sleep 9 here. I've got 1 space left, I think, but other people could sleep off site. We have more room in the chapel. We bought this property with the following divine guidance to have a space that we could invite people here for learning, for activation, to be in person with the energy. So yeah, there's a vortex on this property that I was
I think it's called Yvonne.
Well, we all carry a personal vortex, but yeah, the space is set up for that. So that people who just come through the Airbnb, you know, we use the rooms when I'm not having events here. We use the room for Airbnb. So people come here and are being touched, you know, just sleeping in energy.
You mentioned divine guidance. This for those of us, well, I'm going to still put myself in that category. But for those who are just awakening, does divine guidance always make sense to you? Do you follow it?
I follow it anyway.
Yeah. You're a beautiful lady. It's been a pleasure spending time with you, and it really has been an honor. Love to collaborate with you again sometime down the road. And if there's anything we can do to expand the awareness of what you're doing, please send me a message, or Morgan. We have a pretty good network.
Thank you.
About 65,000 people engaged every week. Hard numbers, and a lot more people that our stuff is put in front of. So we would love to support what you're doing. And if you ever decide you want to go out to Kauai, give us a call.
Okay, that sounds great. Thank you so much, Todd. It was an honor to be your guest.
Enjoyed it very much. Thank you for a beautiful last show of the day.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.